Howdy, Austin. My name is Emanuel Alejandro Delgadillo. Everybody knows me as Manny Fresh. Welcome to my podcast, Manny Sales Soiree. Happy New Year. Welcome back to Manny Sales Soiree. I have a good connection that we met through LinkedIn. We went and got a beer and we kind of hit it off, right? And
that's right.
I told you a little bit about the podcast, so why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Bryan Townsend. I'm here in Austin, man, and I'm a principal of a high school. I've been there for 15 years. This is my third year, running the show. And yeah, like you said, met you and just interested in the opportunities and enjoyed a beer with you. So I'm not a podcast guy. I've never done this before. Yeah. This is new to me, but excited to be here. So I really appreciate the opportunity, man.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that when I talk to you and, the biggest commonality is like the heart, you had some key words that you said, so you're a leader, data driven, I believe you like to make, you like to do the functionality of data. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so for sure. Working with schools, everything is data driven and your decisions have to be rooted in that. So for me, that's just a no-brainer in terms of growing and improving. It's a constant improvement expectation. So, that's where it's rooted from. And what we do often is just, create alignment with the data pieces that we're collecting, the expectations from everyone down from the staff, the employees, all the way to students in terms of progress monitoring and the data collection piece. So that gives me the tools that I need to make the decisions and execute at a high level.
Okay, interesting. One fun fact that I forgot to mention, we actually know somebody in common. So you're from Indianapolis, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you went to high school with my old boss, Matt Hogan. Shout out to Matt Hogan.
Shout out to Matt Hogan. Yeah, that's hilarious, by the way. So Matt Hogan went to my elementary school. He's my sister's age, my older sister's age. And the fun fact there is he plays music. I think he probably still does, but they were the premier high school band, man. So when I got to be out and about and having fun in my adolescence, we would often be partaking in a show, checking out Matt Hogan on the drums back there. So again, shout out Matt Hogan.
Yeah, awesome. So born and raised in Indianapolis then?
That's right. Yeah, born and raised in Indianapolis. Moved here in 2009. I love that I'm from there, man. And I come from good people, and it's just, it's a great place. Yeah. I do love Austin. The weather was enough for me to get out of there so I can deal with this heat down here, but I was tired of those winters, man.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we're from Des Moines, Iowa originally.
Yeah, all the same.
Then 6 years in Wisconsin, so even colder.
Even worse.
Yes, and then, I couldn't get, let's get some, I want some Texas heat, I could be under the weather.
That Texas sun.
And the Texas sun, and I'm okay. The minute I have to put a coat, I'm uncomfortable already, so.
I've already been acclimated. It gets to like 50s here. Back in, when I was growing up, I was outside playing basketball, whatever, in the 30s, Here it's like 50, and I'm like, man, it's too cold. Better stay inside today, right?
Yeah. So what made you move to Austin?
Yeah, nothing in particular. I did spend my last winter, kind of like you in Wisconsin. I was in Chicago, though, and great opportunity. I was in my last semester of college up there. I went to Indiana University, did my student teaching up there, and loved it, but it was wintertime. And I said, you know what, man, if I'm moving away from my hometown, which I desired doing, I had a lot of excitement, exiting my hometown and all that. I had to go somewhere warm. Yeah. I had a list of places that were unrealistic, and Austin was just the most realistic one. So I got here. I love it, man. The culture here, the people here, the food. It's just a great place to be. So, yeah, happy to be here, man.
And then what got you into education?
Yeah, come from, family of educators. My grandfather was a principal and basketball coach. Okay. My mom is a teacher. And, I'm good with kids, man. I'm good with the youth. I'm a good listener, and all these skill sets I had, I wanted to put it to the test. I coached basketball for a little while. I was an English teacher, and now principal. But it felt like it was in my blood, man. It was something I needed to do and go through. I'm at the point now where I'm kind of having the impetus to explore elsewhere, right? Yeah. But that being said, it's been good to me. I've learned a lot, and it's grown my skill set a lot.
Gotcha. Man, you're gonna have a lot of patience, though. I think
You do.
I don't think I can. I was a troubled kid, so I think maybe as I grew up and changed my life around and make right decisions, I don't think I have the patience because I can call out the BS. So, but you as a leader, you still gotta kind of listen to it and I guess give your 2 cents and
I'll tell you this, it's funny you say that because it actually is a benefit, right? I wasn't the best myself growing up, but you have all these things that because you perhaps lived it yourself and you use it to your advantage. You can't get past me. I already know, what's going on. So I use it to that advantage. But that being said, by nature is to be a patient person. I was second born in my family, which means I had an older sister who was dictating my life. I had to be patient. It's just who I became. Your birth order, it's funny, has a pretty big impact on how you are and your personality as you get older. So I attribute a lot of that patience to her, and just growing up and always, jerking me around or whatever it was, playing dolls or whatever I had to do with her. But yeah, patience is required. Grace, discipline, compassion, but probably my favorite part about it is just empowering people, man. I work with at-risk youth, work with students that have had adverse childhood experiences, that just have had tough times in life, don't have support. So, and have not always had success in school. So when they come to my school, we try to give them a fresh new start. It's a clean slate. It's a great opportunity for them to do better. And because of that, you gotta own that, and part of being an educator at school is it brings the best out of you. You have to be the model every day, day in and day out. So it brings the best out of you.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. So you talk about empowerment, and you gotta be a leader. How do you keep yourself motivated? I mean, you got 16 years under you, right?
Yeah. 15.
Yeah. So what kind of keeps you motivated?
A refuse to lose mentality, first of all. So I work at a school where you're constantly trying to it's an uphill battle. We're always trying to improve. And for me, I don't have a mentality where I don't accept losing. Either I win or I learn. I don't fail though. So for me, it's just that constant improvement. Just as I've told you kind of prior with the data collection and the progress monitor, I'm just looking for opportunities to improve on a daily basis. 1% better every day, 1% better every day. It's the kind of thing we preach at our school. It doesn't have to be drastic, but you got to be better every day. You got to keep improving.
So, I measure success a little bit different maybe than the average person, or, now with social media, completely the opposite. I do come from a different background, obviously we're migrants from Mexico, and so to me, success has always been, we were fortunate enough to, my dad was legal, brought us here legally. But how I see or measure success on I guess I'm biased, or it's on my side. So it's the American dream, right? So the people that are not here legally and then put their kids through school, they contribute to the economy, and they contribute to society, and they have a house, and they put their kids through school, and other kids are graduating high school, which they didn't have the opportunity there. And then, they put their kids through college, and now they have a college graduate, for the first in the family, So it's a big thing. And I think that's kind of how I measure, success, not necessarily the money and the fame and, whatever else gets portrayed on social media. How do you measure your success in school, because, and I'm asking this because, I have family in the education, in education, and, some of them see that they're literally just babysitters, parents got to go work, so they drop their kids off to school, and then, there's much you can nurture and give. So how do you measure that success?
Yeah, sure. I totally understand that, and as a mindset that many carry. Fortunately for me, I don't have that type of ability. It's a high stress environment where it's, pass or fail. There's a grade system that we're trying to chase after, right? So for me, my goals are to become an A campus, right? So, when I took over, we're underserved campus, we're underperforming campus, and this is 3 years ago. And, I had to figure out how to make this place improve. I've been there for, a number of years prior to that, but my role was just come in, do your role, and that's that or whatever. So when I took over the leadership and said, this is my campus, a couple of things come to my mind, which is number one, I'm the thermostat, not the thermometer. I have to set the tone. I have to set the pace for what this place is going to look like. So, success to me looks like, what's the environment? Is it a positive culture? Is it a place that people enjoy working? Is it a place kids enjoy being at, right? And when I took over, there's no knock to anyone that came before me that I've worked for, of course, but it wasn't a positive place the way that I see it and need it to be for myself, right? I fight negativity at all costs. To me, negativity is a killer of ideas and killer of everything, So One metric for me is it's got to be a positive culture. So that's one of the first things I did was I came in and said, I had to change this place. I got to make it positive. And of course, with every agency, the state of Texas has a grading system. So we want to be an A campus. That's a metric that we can latch onto that kind of quantifies and qualifies what you did as working. But also, man, I see kids that come to me dejected, and when they leave as graduates, man, first in their family, or go to college and go to, succeed in life and have these professions doing well, that's a success for me, You can get caught in the mundane of the day-to-day, and it's frustrating, and there's lots to be frustrated about in education for sure. But for me, it's just about pushing forward constantly, empowering others. And that's what gets me, the high, if you will, and keeps me going. I love empowering others, man.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think maybe probably comes natural to you because you're a, basketball coach. So I guess elaborate a little bit on your journey from, coaching basketball, and you still coach?
No time for it. I love it. Play a little bit. That's my activity, but don't coach anymore.
Gotcha. So tell me that transition, from, being a coach to high school principal.
It's all related, If you think about being a basketball coach or a coach in general, right, you have to, number one, be the exemplar. You got to represent and model day to day what these high activities of success look like. You're the motivator. You're the one that decides, what's right or wrong and the pathway to success, right? So systems and creating systems, we analyze, we collect data, we look at film, whatever have you. Now, how do we fix this, right? We've identified the flaw. I love to collaborate, whether it was with my team or now as a principal with my teams within the school, right? My leadership style is a servant leadership as well as distributive leadership. And what I mean by that is I'm always going to work hard and serve my people, and they're going to see that, and they're not going to question that. But at the same time, I like to distribute the power across the building. And that kind of goes hand in hand with basketball in some ways, right? Of course, you have to be the coach and the guy, but you got to get buy-in, right?
Yeah.
You have to build camaraderie. Yeah. You have to make people interested and want to be there, right? At a certain point, being an authoritarian, can get results, but burns people out. It's not sustainable, and it is what it is. So there's tons of overlap there, at the end of the day, and it helped to, cultivate who I become as a leader,
Okay, awesome. Well, and you're carrying a lot on your shoulders. So, like, how do you vent? How do you, is it playing basketball? Is it, biking? Or
Both of those. In fact, actually, I love biking. One of my favorite activities. Get my buddies together. We'll meet somewhere on the east side, then cruise the bike lane all the way through the city. Go by the library. Wherever we go. So biking is a great way to get outside, get some vitamin D. You know what I'm saying? But basketball it brings me joy, man.
Gotcha.
When COVID hit, I took a little break, and I was gaining weight and I was losing athleticism. And I'm like, what am I doing, man? And then I had this concept of like, well, get better, by yourself, and then you get back out there, playing some leagues, whatever it is. But then I just dawned on me, like, anywhere I play, it brings me joy, So now I play on Sundays with some guys in the neighborhood, outside, 2-on-2, whatever. I play in a league, with some buddies. It's competitive, we win these leagues often, and refs and everything like that. But it brings me joy, man. When I get done playing, I just release endorphins, I've released stress, and it just brings out a side of me that's confidence. Basketball is a place where I have a confident mindset,
Gotcha. Okay. Obviously we're in different type of industries, but, us, to me, I'm a very salesman at heart. So my obstacles or my bottlenecks or, my objections are typically from a prospect. So I'm assuming you have the same thing, just, a little bit more in school politics, So how do you attack those, and how do you, what's your, I guess, game plan?
Yeah. So I think ultimately what you're getting to is failure. You're going to experience failure. You're going to have to overcome the yeses and nos that come in life and everything like that. On a broad sense, I think that it's important to think about failure as it's just a part of the process. I think in sales, my wife does sales. Prospecting is tremendously important. You have to have discipline to continue to do it because you're getting a lot of no's. But if you have the paperclip method or whatever it is that keeps you moving forward, well, then, you have the discipline there to overcome it. A lot is the same in education, whether it's, working with, my district, the board, or stakeholders of some sorts, or donors, or whatever it is. You got to be a salesman. You got to go out there and pitch your vision So it's always important to me to say, this is the vision of what I have, what I can offer, what we can do. Here's how you guys can help, right? And then knowing that not everyone's going to align with your vision, that's okay. But when you do find the one that aligns with your vision, it's going to be a mutual beneficial, relationship there. So have a vision and be confident with it and know that some yeses, some nos, but move forward.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I like a little bit of reading, but I read like a little introspective books, meaning I don't like a book that tells you what to do because we already know what to do. We just choose not to do it,
That's
discipline
true,
or, lack of emotion, or maybe you just don't want it hard enough. So, what do you recommend for, something that it keeps you?
So one that comes to mind is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Are you familiar with that one by chance?
No.
It's cool because it's kind of like I said, the 1% better a day concept, right? Of course, goal setting is important in life. We know that. But the point that he makes is it's less about goal setting, more about the habits you form. And if you think about it, the habits you form become your identity, right? So if I want to be a good basketball player, I make habits. Say I'm going to play basketball every single day. I'm going to work on my athleticism every single day. And those habits, little or big, are making me better every single day. And before long, you look back and I've tracked my habits and I've become a better basketball player because I'm doing the habits, right? So the atomic component of it is it could be small. Start small. It doesn't have to be this grand thing. Goals sometimes are yes or no. I want to dunk a basketball and I'm not doing it. I failed or whatever. Whereas habits are, I'm going to do the work that goes into it, and therefore I'm getting better along the way. So Atomic Habits is great. For my personal leadership style, I love Lincoln on Leadership, Abraham Lincoln's views on leadership. A lot that I love about that, he has an open door policy. He's a servant leader. And, the mindset of this open door policy, if you will, is he's constantly gathering data, right? And if you're closed off, if you're separate from the world, as a president or whatever it is in leadership, you're too distant. You don't really know what's going on. But if you have that open door, whoever it is, whatever your subordinates that come in, you're gathering information, you're hearing the real realities of it. So those two, kind of on a fun scale, Green Lights by Austin's own Matthew McConaughey, the Minister of Culture.
Yeah.
If you haven't read that,
I have it, but I haven't got to it.
It's great, man. It's full of humor. It's full of wisdom. He's just a cool guy. I like him. It's good stuff. I really enjoyed that. And
I can see you're laid back like him. Yeah.
I really vibe with his whole persona. I love it, man. And he's just a big believer in Austin, supporter of Austin. So I align with him well. And then lastly, and it's funny because I watched a couple of the other episodes and a theme, and I'm going to keep it going, was The Alchemist, man. I love The Alchemist too.
Yeah.
It's one of the gentlemen made it a point to say, it's about time to reread that. I kind of feel the same way. I love that through the whole journey, you got it within at the end of the day, so The Alchemist as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Paulo Coelho. And a very introspective book. It's The Devil in Miss Prim by him. That's one of my favorites. Manuscript in Accra. That's another good one, but good. Yeah. So I asked you one time, what 5 words would people that know you very well would describe you by? And you said data-driven, patient, hardworking, and thorough. Which is, I guess, probably the biggest assets for being a school principal. Yeah. So, what would you recommend somebody that may not necessarily a high school principal, but somebody that's becoming having a transition to become a leader, or who knows, maybe they want to get into education and be what a principal or do what you do.
Yeah, have thick skin, number one, and I think it's the same in sales, right? You can't be turned off by failures, right? Yeah. Have thick skin, have discipline of action, and have a vision. You have to have a vision. Where do you want to go? A lot of education is planning with the end in mind. You have to get to the end and say, what is it that I desire? What is the end outcome that we want and the goal? And okay, now that I know what that is, what does it take to get there? And how do I have to align my source, my services to make that happen? And what's the buy-in that I have to get, right? So I think the biggest thing is you got to be visionary. You have to have a vision for what to expect, and then you have to plan thoroughly. And that's where that thorough comes in. Now you have your plan, and now you're going to just progress monitor. You're going to look at the data. Is this working? Is it not working? Well, let's tweak it. Let's fix it. Let's move on, revise, pivot, and continue to do the process, right? And it's this evolution of work that over time, you get success from, and you keep getting better at it along the way too,
Gotcha. You said positive right mindset and, get away from the negativity.
Yeah.
I remember several years back, I was going through a breakup and my employees, good things at home weren't going well. And then I would have to go to the office and my employees were, at it, so they were acting like kids. I would leave the office and I would get a call from one, and then I would get call from the other person, and I have to come back kind of like a teacher, come and make sure that they're not fighting each other and eating sand and everything. And later on, throughout the months go by, they realized what I was going through, and they're like, "What?" They're like, "There's no way you were coming in every day." Creating the atmosphere, being happy, letting, get us ready for the day. And like that would be insane. Like I could never do that, so it's a big thing in leadership. And where I'm going with this is, as your family values, you said wife, you got 2 kids,
Yep.
Work and life balance. So how do you,
Tough, man,
how do you keep that one?
Yeah, so always tough. Some days it does feel like survival mode, and you got to get through it in whatever ways you can. You got to decompress when you come home, because sometimes the burden of work, as you pointed out, overlaps into your personal life, and that's never what you want. You got to have a fulfilling life outside, and you have to have a profession that's fulfilling. So for me, you got to decompress. You have to have healthy activities. One of my favorite things is having a calm mind is a blessing in life. You can't always have a calm mind. I guess what I mean by that is, with a calm mind, I can be introspective. I can pray. I can meditate. I can think forward. I can brainstorm. I can be creative. So part of my decompression is figuring out a time slot and having a protected time slot that is my calm mind time, right? So for me, it's a lot of times in the morning, but I've got to start that day with this calm mindset, and it can kind of set my day right? So I can have, for me at least, it's going to be involving prayer, and it's going to involve introspective, family, professional, and everything. But it kind of is really, if you think about a goal setting for that day or whatever it is. And but the value of a calm mind is super important, and just having healthy outlets, escape moments for me, like I said, basketball, biking, things like that. But the work-life balance is tough, man. It is tough right now, and I have 2 kids, so I got to come home for them and be present. And days that I'm coming home stressed, a lot of times it's because my emotional bandwidth has just been depleted throughout the day. And you probably can relate in this, story you just told, where you're dealing with so much at home, you're dealing with so much at work, and you don't have anything left, in the emotional bandwidth side. So it's just acknowledging that thought, compartmentalizing for me a little bit, and say, I'll deal with what I have to tomorrow professionally, but right now I got to be present with my kids. I got to be present with my wife. I'm gonna cook some dinner and play with my kids or whatever it is. But mindset, man, it's just a mindset shift.
Yeah, that's very interesting what you said, because you just taught me something new. I'm a very extrovert person, and I never thought, your introvert moments. Usually, I'm a high energy guy. So, for example, for me to, get things, rub things off my shoulder, I usually have a shower scene, so I'm taking a shower, and if I got something that I gotta talk to, whether it's a prospect, a family member, everything, I act out the scene, what I'm gonna say and everything.
It's helpful,
when I'm in the car driving around, maybe going to a customer or doing a sales call or whatever, I'm also doing that. So people might see me, that I'm jamming to music, but I'm actually having a scene of what the situation is, and that kind of helps me. But
Absolutely.
Your good outlets, I guess, I don't know if those are good or bad.
No,
but,
I think it's great, man. If you, at the end of the day, and this goes back to everything, right? Repetition in life is everything. If I want to be, and I'm a terrible golfer, I don't, love it. But if I want to be good at golf, it's repetitions, man. If I want to be a good shooter, it's repetitions. If you really think about it, you're just getting repetitions in, repetitions in life.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you keep saying, data driven, and one thing you said is like, hey, I'm good at what I do in building systems. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure.
On the school?
When I took over the leadership role, one of the things that became very apparent really early on was that systems were missing. And this was not unknown to me going into it. But the reason I say that is because that whole first year I was sitting there spinning my wheels. I couldn't move the needle forward. And at the close of the day, I said, what did I do today? And it was just put out fire, put out fire, put out fire. And the reason that is because there was no systems in place, right? So now you're thinking on your feet constantly. The amount of cognitive function that is required in these moments is significantly higher, right? So the value of having systems put in place is you reduce that cognitive load because you already got the answer. It's been pre-scripted. Now your subconscious can take over in essence, right? So when I put systems in place, it is helpful for me, but also the framework of those that work with me, right? So whatever the error is, the issues that's happening, there's friction, there's a pattern of repeated error that's occurring. You know, I got to analyze it and say, what's the solution for this that we can now put in place systematically that is sustainable so we can move forward and avoid this on a future purpose and a future basis. And I guess to elaborate a little bit further, as that first year of my principalship was occurring, I, at a certain point, said, I got to immerse myself with what's going on. And I closed my little corner office down, my little cozy spot. I said, I'm not going to work here. I made a desk in the middle of the school, right in the middle of the building. And I started leading from the middle. I'm seeing everything that's happening. I'm intervening as I need to, right? But what's really happening is I'm collecting data at this point. What's going on? What's happening? What's going on? And then to tie that back into, you know, my leadership style is distributive by nature. So now I bring in my team. So this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing. This is what's happening. I see it firsthand. And for me, by the way, the value of seeing things firsthand is really important versus getting it secondary and what's the biases and things like that. And then we collaborate. We say, how do we fix this? You know, what's going on? And if you think about doing that practice as well, you get buy-in because it's not just my idea, right? It's their idea as well. Camaraderie is built. Everyone's got a stake in the game. Capacity is built. And at the same time, I'm showing my competence because we're sitting here and I'm the thought leader in this process oftentimes, not always, you know? So for me, that's kind of where the systematic nature comes from, but then just implementing and then moving forward with it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what is your, you know, career goal, you know, where you want to be at and, you know, moving forward?
Yeah, I just want to keep advancing myself. What that is, I don't know just yet, man. That's partly why it's entertaining and exciting to be a part of, you know, having these conversations because you don't always get this level of being introspective to yourself because you live it, you do what you're doing, right? Education's been good to me right now. I'm definitely at a point where I'd like to explore what's outside of education. So a natural jump off would be some sort of ed tech, right? Perhaps something in sales or sales adjacent. I really like the idea of being a solutions engineer, solutions architect, perhaps long term. I think I could leverage my skill set there and enjoy it. But I guess to go a little more broad, I just desire a little more work-life balance. We live in a city where there's a lot of remote work available, and I don't necessarily, it's not a mandate of mine, but it's available. I'd like to look into it, like to get access to it, because right now I'm tied to a schedule. I got to be on site daily and things like that. So I desire a hybrid or remote work and just earning power. You know, the thing about education is it's good for the soul, man. I love it. It's been a blessing to me and growing me in a lot of ways, but I'd like to have the earning power to be a little greater, you know?
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. I have a story about, so I'm going to put you on the spot maybe, but I have a story of one of my ex used to tell me that she lived out in the country in Oregon. And she forgotten to be picked up by the mom. So the high school principal had to drive, I think like 40 minutes. Do you have any, you don't have to get two person or two in detail, but you know, any not just a harsh story, you know, of being a high school principal, but also, you know, is a good success story as well. You know, let's keep it positive. So,
yeah, there's lots of stories to tap into. Some good, some bad. You know, there's been tragedies, man. Lots of tragedies and sadness because I work with kids that come from a lot of trauma. You know what I mean? But so on a success story, I guess, you know, one that comes to my mind is a kid that I worked with last year in our school. Does a great job, man. We really empower kids and give second chances and things like this. And this kid was a great example of that. He was an immigrant from Nicaragua. He had been to our school 2 or 3 years prior and then dropped out and was vacant for a long time. And he came back. He's learning English, all this stuff. And then by the end of the year, you know, he finishes and he is the highest ranking graduate in the state of Texas. That gets you a free year of college tuition. He's now at Texas State. You know, he came back to visit just, you know, a couple weeks ago. And I'm looking at this kid, man, that when he came in was dejected. He was uncertain. He didn't know what was going to happen next. And now he's coming in and he's in the ROTC and he's excited about what future has. He's got semester 1 under his belt and he's just, looks like a ball of confidence, man. And that's the moments when we're like, all right, that's cool. That's cool what we're doing here. And that's the impact and the power, on a small scale, but very great scale at the same time.
Awesome. I've been working since I've been 12 years old. So when I was 12, I lied on the job application. I was 14, so I can go detassel corn in the Iowa cornfields.
Just to make $2 an hour or something, right?
I think it was $5. Yeah, so that's not bad. But for a 12-year-old, and I get to spend the summer with my friends, we would literally walk to like a bus stop, and they would pick us from there, and they would take us to the cornfield. So to the Iowa cornfield. So I think I've always been like a working bee, so. But at one point in my life, somebody told me, they asked why my supervisor or my manager liked me so much. And his answer was like, hey, because maybe one day we're going to take orders from this guy. So I think that kind of lit the flame that, we can do a little bit better for ourselves, that we don't have to get stuck on the day-to-day job. There's a lot of people that hate their jobs, 8 to 5. I've never been that guy. Even labor jobs. I used to be a butcher right after high school. I went to a meat packing plant and I woke up fine, like, let's go do this, even though sometimes your knife is dull, you got put your back into it. And you seem like a well-rounded guy. So where, is it all, I want to say, is it all natural? You might be a little humble, or you think there's a mentor, or there was somebody that lit the flame?
Yeah, I think everyone needs mentorship. And, for me, it always just I have a good family, and I'm thankful for that. Speaking of the cornfields, my grandfather was a farmer as well and raised corn and had crops like that. It's a funny connection there. But I had grandparents on both sides that were supportive. I have my parents that are so supportive. I have my siblings. I was blessed, man, to have that. I know that's a blessing. So for me, a lot of my confidence is now intrinsic, but it just came from being surrounded by love, man. And I was really blessed to have that. My dad, his father started a business, and then my dad, ran that thing, and I watched him, and it was up to him a lot. It was a very small business. At the end of it, it was basically him, and my aunt. But he worked hard, man. It's just that refuse to lose mentality. Like, it was not gonna fail. You know what I mean? So I got to see that firsthand. I got to be surrounded by love, and that made a big difference, man. Okay, so that's, I think, where it comes from, if I had to be honest with you.
Okay, that's good, yeah. Nothing like farming that gets you some discipline.
Man. That's right.
To go, right. Yeah. What about, obviously family is very important, grandpa and dad, but then I don't know if you carry a chip on your shoulder because of that, but what about anybody famous? Like I'm a big fan of Gary Vee and Brad Lea. They literally just say how it is, so that's kind of why I like it. They don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah. I think I'll tap into, we already mentioned him, but McConaughey, man. I do love McConaughey. I think that he's cool because he could be a straight shooter when he has to. He uses humor to his advantage. He calls out the realities of life, but in a humorous way. He also has a mentality of like we said about failure, man. You can't fear failure, so he says sometimes you step in shit, man, and then you just scrape it off and move forward. So I really appreciate his mentality and approach, and I love that he's here in Austin. So hopefully one day I'll meet him.
Oh yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah. Good. Hey, what about anything that has impacted your school career? Education. Is there anything? I know social media might be a big topic for for the young kids, but what's some bottlenecks there?
Social media is a societal problem right now, and a lot of the youth are only digesting, your feed, if you will, of social media is really curated. Sometimes it's amazing. I'll purposely like stuff. I'm like, I like that sweatshirt. I want it to come back up my feed later. I want to see it later, But if you think about that, what they digest in terms of information, news, the worldly, whatever it is purely curated by what their likes are, in a lot of ways. So because of that, there's a skewed perspective in life that is being carried like never before, if you think about it. So social media has that impact. Also, there's a lot of narcissism with it.
Yeah.
And it's not true, you know. A lot of times it's just not honest. So now you're like latched onto these beliefs, and it's the only thing that keeps coming to you, but it's not really representing the realities of the world. So that is prevalent. You know, one of the things we do at my campus, phones are just banned, man. We shut them down. You can't have your phone in class. You can't multitask and be on a phone. I can't, you know.
Yeah.
I have days where I'm like, dude, I got to throw this phone across the room. Otherwise, I can't stay focused. So, you know, that's part of it. But, you know, just being real and having that in-person relationships with students and see like, hey, this is the real world here. Let me try to represent what it should look like, because what you're digesting may not be representative of the real realities we're facing, you know?
Gotcha. And then any, you know, with the new elections, any policies or any game changing in the school education? Or?
Yeah. Now we just wait and see, you know, the battles of curriculum and disbanding the Department of Education. You know, I think that in the coming year, there'll be some more information that comes about that, and what ends up happening from that. What are the, you know, residuals that come? I don't know. And sometimes I have the perspective of saying, if it's out of my sphere of control, I'm going to just kind of not pay mind to it for the time being. But I think in the next year, it's going to become more increasingly closer to my sphere of control, and there'll be some, you know, decisions that have to be made. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I hope that more funding and money comes through at the end of the day.
Yeah, you know, we when we had a beer, we kind of talked about that. You know, that no matter who's in office, you know, how much does that really affect you? You know, life goes on. You know, the country still goes on. You know, just I think our mindset of belief, you know, that I'm right, you're wrong, and it keeps going, keeps turning, right?
Yeah, it's too divisive. You know, like, you don't have to agree with me, and that's okay. I like it when people agree with me. I usually have better conversations. I don't want to argue with people, but at the end of the day, you know, if we disagree, that's okay. If I like you for different reasons, we have commonalities for whatever they are, I still respect you. I like you. I'm not, who you voted for is not going to necessarily change my mind about whether you're a good or bad person. You know, the way you carry yourself, your character, those are the things that I look for more so.
So, you know, I took, I always been a salesman, but I didn't get into recruiting by, I guess by mistake. The company found me, I guess, you know. I moved to Austin. They had a troubling market and a troubling office, and didn't know anything about recruiting other than Abner, that he's been in recruiting for 20 years. So I know a little bit of that much, but I know they just needed a branch and a sales manager. So they needed somebody to bring, you know, revenue, create revenue, bring new customers, and then obviously manage the branch and the employees. And I knew I had the leadership in me, and I knew I had the sales in me. Didn't know anything about the industry, and I came in thinking it's like an 8 to 5 when you got to rebuild something that was not 8 to 5. It's like 60 hours a week, you know, taking phone calls at 9 p.m. I didn't even have an alarm because my phone would start ringing at 6 a.m. But I knew that I could do it because of the skills that I have, and I wanted to sharpen up new tools. Is that how you envision you maybe taking a leap in career? Or?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, because you're never going to have all the answers, and if you do, then you maybe you're selecting the wrong thing, right? You have to keep pushing yourself. So if you do have the imposter syndrome thoughts or whatever they are that are coming up, you have to just be reminded of, you do have skill set. What are they? You know, be reminded, this is what I got, and that's where your confidence comes from. And likewise for me, you know, there's times when you're out of your comfort zone. It's a good place to be, though, and everyone knows that. It's just easier said than done, of course. But you do have to sometimes be introspective, say, what do I have? What do I have to offer? That's not going away, you know. I still have this. It's just transferable. So I think that's where I'm at, and I know that what I've done is no cakewalk, and I think that it's built me the right skill set to succeed at whatever's next for me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of patience and
absolutely.
What about you know, what certain skills or top skills you think, you know, you can transition into?
You know,
because at the end of the day, it's all about like, hey, what do you bring to the table, right?
Right,
you know?
right. So obviously the leadership component, you know, I'm not just an individual contributor. I'm somebody that has the ability to look big picture, visionary in a way, right? At my campus, everything that we do is because not everything, but is because I had a vision for it at a certain point, right? So being visionary, understanding that with this vision comes a series of steps and checkpoints and progress monitoring. These are all things that can transfer over. Demonstration skills, being a part of presenting, trying to be captivating with an audience and understand how to engage with people and the back and forth that comes with that. These are all skills that you have as an educator that are very transferable. Discipline, data tracking, all this kind of stuff, So whatever's next for me, I think that when that happens, I'll be able to tap into these things and also just be reminded that, I actually have a lot of skill that I don't always think about it, kind of at a subconscious level that comes up and you can use it when you need to,
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I moved from Iowa to Wisconsin, took a change in careers. I went from Wisconsin to Austin, and that's where I got into recruiting. And then, my best friend, built the company and also amplified. And his brother. So when I eventually went back to Iowa to make this happen, to bring Infinite Resources into Austin, his brother said, "Man, you have to have a lot of faith on my brother, or you just a little crazy because you just went from your career to this, So, how do you see yourself doing that? Is it?
Yeah.
Are you easing into, or is it that you're ready to make the change?
Yeah, for me, when opportunity is presented, then I'll be ready to jump into it, because the way I believe too is if there's a good opportunity in front of you and you have to, go through your checks and balances of what the good opportunity represents, you got to take it. You got to take it. You got to say yes. You just got to hop in. And it kind of goes back to this like fear of failure kind of concept. Everyone has a fear of failure. A lot of people have learned how to overcome that, Jimmy Iovine, Beats, Jimmy Iovine, Dr. Dre, Jimmy Iovine. He has a pretty cool quote about this, and I won't remember it verbatim, of course, but basically he looks at fear as it's like a wall. It's either in front of you and you're scared to take that leap or whatever. It stops you and inhibits you to go forward, or you go over it and all of a sudden now fear is behind you, but it has transitioned into a fear of failure, which thrusts you forward or whatever. So, that's the mindset that I'm going to have, when the time comes and I see great opportunity, I'm saying, let's do it. Let's hop into it. Let's do this.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, they actually have a song where he's quoted that on a song.
That might've been where I heard it.
Yeah. It's in the soundtrack, Straight Outta Compton, I think. Dr. Dre comes.
I think that's where I heard it.
And then, I liked. There was an actual HBO show too about him and how that all came about.
Yeah,
and,
him speaking resonated with me.
Yeah, that was some very powerful. It's want to be. I'm not typically somebody that idolizes celebrities or anything, especially in the music industry or actors or anything. But that was really powerful. That
just powerful statement, It stuck with me.
Awesome. So, how can people get a hold of you? What?
Yeah, for sure. I'm on LinkedIn as well as like everybody else. Find me on LinkedIn is the most easy way. Other than that, contact me, man. Get through to me, but the best way is LinkedIn for sure.
Okay, gotcha. I want to leave the audience with maybe some, a couple of tips that, from the heart, from leadership. What do you recommend?
Empower people around you, man. It's like a compound interest, you see them grow, but at the same time you get the feelings that come from the positive feelings from helping others. So help others. Anything that matters to you, if you really want to do it, calendar it out, add it to your calendar. For me, before my school year starts, I calendar out the entire year, again, kind of reduce that mental load. And, lastly, as you kind of heard me say, probably fight the negativity, man. Negativity will drown out anything. The naysayers, whatever it is. I'm happy to have tough conversations, but I can't have negativity. Let's talk it through, and we'll either agree or disagree, but I can't have negativity. So fight the negativity at all costs, man.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this is a very well-rounded guy. So, there's people that they're good at tunnel vision, or you do it one thing, but, you probably, you would go home and be somebody else different. But I was able to identify you're, well-rounded on all aspects. So we wish you good luck, man. And then good to you.
Hey, appreciate you,
yeah,
man.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot, Manny.